Hello again, everybody, and welcome to a new edition of You Bet CaneSport with Lee Sterling, our weekly look at the Miami Hurricanes from the betting perspective. I'm Gary Furman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined once again by Lee Sterling himself of Paramount Sports.com, your go-to place for the best sports picks that you could get anywhere. You see the number, you see the website at the bottom of your screen. Lee's going to be humble, so he'll keep that poker face. But this is a guy that is helping people make money every single week as the football season goes forward. And Lee, you got by the hair of your chinny chin chin last week when it came to the Miami Hurricanes. I don't know if you ended up giving it to your clients like you said you would, but 21.5 was where the line was sitting. You said take Miami. Yep. And my God, what a nightmare, because I saw the line go to 22.5 in there. And we're talking about, well, forget the fact that FSU scored with like 16 seconds left in the game. Right. But before that, Mario went for a 2-point conversion, which made the margin, which they didn't get, and left the margin at 22 as opposed to 23 if they had just kicked the extra point. Right. And the people that ended up taking the 22.5 ended up getting screwed. And, obviously Miami scored again, but then FSU scored again, and it ended up being a 22-point margin of victory, which made you look like a genius, Lee. I don't know how they do it, like how they come up with these numbers, and it's
crazy.
I mean, you look at everything that happened in that game.
Everything except for the point spread was, it was a yawner. It was one of the most boring games I've ever watched between Miami and Florida State. Would you agree with that, Gary?
It was not great. No, yeah. Florida State was horrendous on offense. Yeah. Miami had to run the ball.
Yeah, very few people had 22 or 22.5. It was generally 20.5, 21 almost the whole time. So I'd say 95, 98% of the people won the game. And crazy was that was my big game on Saturday. My big game on Sunday was Dallas. I was getting 5.5, and it closed 6, and they lost by 6. And that was a loser. So won my big game college by a point, lost my big game in the NFL by 1 point. So it happened. I don't know if I can remember that ever happening, but like I said, it can happen. And Miami is going to have to work on some things. I think we never felt that we were going to be taken to the edge or Florida State had a chance of winning the game. But when you see a game where the two most exciting plays were their quarterback sneak, where the guy got free and ran for, 30, 40 yards. And then
total fluke, by the way.
Yeah. And then
total fluke.
It was total fluke. And then how about Martinez? He's running the ball and looks like he's stuffed, and he ends up breaking free and running for a big gainer. So those are the two most exciting plays of the game. Boring game. We are seeing some things, some trends in how they're going to play Cam Ward. I do believe we're going to see a lot of 2 deep or 1 deep, and these corners playing off and making us beat us underneath and make us drive 8, 10, 12, 14 plays. And they just don't want to give up the big play. That's pretty much what Florida State's defense was all about. And Cam Ward's going to have to learn, if he wants to go to the next level and be successful, I think getting rid of the ball a little bit quicker. I think our defense played better. But going back to the offense, I think the interior, our center and 2 guards are going to have to really good run blocking. These guys are road graders, but we're going to have to work on our pass blocking. Those 3 guys got beat, I think, for either 3 of the 4 or all 4 of the sacks. So we've got to work on that blitz pickup and just a couple times just whiffed on guys. So some things to work on down the road.
The downside is that Florida State showed people the blueprint to slow down Miami's offense. Now, Miami made up for it with the mauling run blocking at the line of scrimmage, which allowed, Martinez and Fletcher to have big days. But if you want to slow down what is believed to be the top passing game in the country right now, Florida State kind of came up with a formula. The only problem is I'm not sure everybody Miami plays here down the stretch of this in the month of November has the personnel that Florida State has on defense. They're struggling. They're having a horrible season, but they do still have some athletes in Tallahassee. and they put athletes on athletes the other day pretty effectively. And we'll see what Duke is able to do here on Saturday at Hard Rock Stadium. But Lee, they're doing it to you again. We got another 21-point line. I mean, right on the 3 touchdown mark.
Right.
I don't know. Manny Diaz, a very good defensive coach. He's going to be bringing blitz packages like there's no tomorrow. You know that he's going to take a lot of chances. He can't match up mano a mano with Miami, and he'll know that. So he will take a lot of schematic chances. How do you see this game playing out?
So how about last week? They get 6 turnovers in their game and didn't have any, and somehow found a way to lose. Now, what's crazy is their offense didn't play terrible. I mean, it came down to the end. They get a turnover, get the ball like the 10 or 12-yard line up for a field goal, and the kid just makes an incredible play for SMU. Surprisingly, it wasn't one of the UM transfers in the portal. They have so many of them on their team for SMU, but blocked it, went to overtime. SMU scores first, and who was it? Sharp Smith ends up scoring a touchdown on a 25-yard run. And then Duke comes back and scores and then goes for 2, which I don't have a problem. Didn't love the play. But, I mean, they're a little limited on offense. I will say this about their quarterback, Malik Murphy, transfer from Texas. He has improved to where he started the season. I mean, maybe it was the system combination, didn't have a whole lot of weapons. He looks better. He is making better decisions, throws a real nice slant ball. They throw a lot of slants and a lot of wide receiver screens. They run them to death. But he does have 2 pretty good receivers. So he was going with Jordan Moore, was his big receiver earlier in the season. Then last week, Eli Pancall was his guy. And those guys were connecting like crazy. I'm not really worried about their running game a whole lot. Like I said, we're going to see Manny Diaz bring the house. They're number 2 in the country in tackles for loss. I think it's 71, something like that. So they're going to try to, create some havoc, and they feel if they can get turnovers. I think it was 2 years ago. Wasn't it that game, Manny's first year, we had like 8 turnovers in that game and lost? Is that correct? Was that?
I don't remember that. I
don't know if it was that game. Yeah, what game was? But Manny Diaz, he has nothing to lose. He has obviously an anger towards Miami being let go and the manner it happened. So he's going to leave it all out there. I think he's going to get his kids up here. They're going to slow down the game. They're not going to run hurry up against us. And like I said, the blueprint's out there. If we play an error-free game, can we cover? Absolutely. But, this is one of the better defenses in the country. I mean, our defense looks much, much better. But I think 21 is probably a little bit too much. I can see us winning this game. Let's go 35-17. I'll take Duke in the 21 points and hold my breath or hold my nose, whatever, however you want to call it.
And just so you guys know, when Lee goes the other way on these, he's giving it to you with his head, not his heart. He's this big.
And I did give Miami, like I said, to my clients. This will not be a game that I'm giving to my clients, but just knowing Manny Diaz and we got bigger fish to fry.
Noon start.
Oh, I hate those noon starts. They're horrible. Crowd, it's not going to be huge. Not going to be as energized as it normally is. Miami's going to watch the film and say, these kids are normal. I mean, they're going to say, wow, they got 6 turnovers and still couldn't win the game. So it's not like, you're playing Notre Dame or Florida. There's not going to be that urgency and that enthusiasm. Yeah, sure, you want to play a game, but Duke kids, I think, will be higher for the game, and Manny Diaz will get them sky high. So looking forward to it. And let's see if some things I'd like to see Miami do going down the road if we're going to be successful, if we get into the ACC championship game or against better teams in the playoffs. We need to throw our running backs, I think, a little bit more. So I talked about the offense interior line, but you got to use your backs out of the backfield.
And the tight end.
And the tight end. Yeah, we were doing that for a while and kind of going away from it. But just you gotta show everything. You got to have all those weapons ready to go when you're playing the better teams.
Yep. They got to make them defend the whole field. So Canes fans, you might just want to leave this game alone. Right. I think is what Lee's trying to tell you. I mean, you're obviously, I don't see too many of you guys out there betting Duke. But you might want to just leave this one alone. It's a big line, when you factor in everything that's going to be going on out there. And there might be better places for you to invest your money this weekend. And one of them might be in the game of the week, which is Ohio State. They're at Penn State, and they're 3.5 point favorites. Lee, how do you see that game playing out?
So I do think that Drew Allard is going to start at quarterback for Penn State, even though he's injured slightly. But I don't think it matters much. Bo Pribble, the backup, played really well. It was 11 for 13 and throwing the football in the second half when he came in for him last week in their game against Wisconsin on the road. And then also ran for, I think, like 28 yards. Presents a little bit different option for Penn State to Drew Allard. Drew Allard's not more of a drop-back passer. But I was shocked maybe that Ohio State isn't who I thought they were going to be. I thought they were going to be an absolutely dominant team. I thought they were going to go in and beat Oregon on the road. Couldn't dominate that game. In the end, they ended up losing a close game, really good game. But then off of a bye last week, they're playing Nebraska and only ran, I think, their two top running backs, Jenkins and Henderson, ran for 54 yards on 20 carries. I was shocked. They're not getting the push. They got some problems at tackle. They might be down to a third-string tackle for this game. So unless Ohio State can hit on some really big plays to the receivers, obviously we know the number one weapon is Smith, the kid that Miami tried to recruit, came so close.
It kills me every time I see him.
Yeah, I know.
You watch how good he is, and
yeah.
I mean, he could own South Florida. I know he's going to be big at Ohio State and the whole thing.
Right. But still, you're right.
Top picks in the draft.
He could have been a Michael Irvin. If he came out this year, Gary, I'll go this far. I think he would have been a top 5 draft pick. He's that talented.
Yeah, we're talking like legendary in South Florida, like for his whole life, and I can't believe he passed up on that, but he'll be okay. We don't have to feel sorry for Jeremiah Smith. You're talking about the guy that's going to make hundreds of millions of dollars playing football, most likely.
Right.
So back to Ohio State, Penn State. What do we do there?
I think you take the points here in Penn State. I think they're at home. Think that Ohio State, like I said, isn't who we thought they were. And Penn State's defensive line, they're going to create a lot of havoc. They get a lot of I think they're going to be in the backfield all day long. Will Howard was talking. I think he's from the area near Penn State, that he didn't get recruited. He's got like a chip on his shoulder. Will Howard isn't good enough to, I think, really penetrate this Penn State defense. He's a middle of the road quarterback. So I'm going to take Penn State. They finally break through here. I think they win the game outright, 27-23.
The home underdog angle, big angle in the NFL. Lee, how much does it come into play in the college game?
Home team, better defense. That's the way I look at it. So, and maybe the better coach. They haven't won the big game, but Ryan Day, I mean, nothing special. I didn't think he made many real good adjustments even in the game last week against Nebraska. Nebraska had a chance to win the game. They drive down. I mean, there was one call, Gary, where Nebraska got a first down, a clear first down. I mean, by like 2 yards. And this, the linesman marked it back. I mean, it was. I watch a lot of bad officiating. Pac-12 used to have the worst, but this was really, really bad here. So it could have prevented, if Nebraska came back and won the game, could have prevented them from winning the game. But I like Penn State. I think they finally do break through.
There's an interesting game I wanted to ask you about, and it's kind of tricky because Pitt quarterback Eli Holstein, there's a question whether he will play or not play. I was shocked they put a line on this game, even with that in question. And you can maybe explain that better than me. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. But they have made SMU a 7.5 point favorite at home over a Pitt team that's been pretty impressive so far this season, Lee. You can't make a pick because you don't know who's playing quarterback for Pitt. But what do you see in that game? Like, why is there a line, first of all, and why does it favor SMU so much?
Well, SMU, except for that loss to BYU on the road. No, actually, I think it was at home. I think they lost by like 3 points, like 19-16, something like that. You know, maybe a little more quality of schedule. Pitt, played well on defense last week, but I think they got 5 or 6 interceptions from the Syracuse quarterback McCord, which used to be the offense didn't do a whole lot. Other than that, they've had a lot of close games, so their strength of schedule isn't there. But the line opened up at 7, went to 7.5. A couple places this morning, I saw some 8s, and then it came back to 7.5. I just think they're so unsure what's going to happen. If he plays, it might go down to 6.5, 7 for sure, maybe 6.5. Okay. I thought the line should have been 4.5, 5 tops. I think they're giving SMU maybe a little bit too much credit. And but if he doesn't play, this line could soar up to 8.5, 9, 9.5 points. So take away. We'll just stay away until we see the situation. Holstein, the former Alabama transfer quarterback, now Pitt.
All right, real quick, there was another game or two that just caught my attention. Of course, Georgia and Florida are playing at the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville. Georgia is only a 16.5-point favorite over the Gators. I imagine because Florida's been playing better as of late.
Right. They have, last year's game, Florida scored that touchdown first, and then I think after scoring 7 points, I think Georgia ran off 36 unanswered. So Florida has been playing better. The only problem is they got a true freshman quarterback, hasn't played in this game. If Georgia plays anywhere close to the way they played on defense, the way they played against Texas, I think Florida's in big trouble. So we'll see if they bring it. And Florida's been playing some really lower level quarterbacks. The former Georgia quarterback, Vandergrift's at Kentucky. He's already been replaced late in the game last week or even the last 2 games. So I think Georgia, Carson Beck, it's a future first-round pick. Complete. I think he's got 15 touchdowns already on the year. He has a pretty good game. And the defense comes to play. They're probably the right side. I have them winning this game, something like 41-17.
All right, and then Texas A&M, which is kind of a little bit of a surprise team this year. They're 2.5-point favorites over South Carolina. Is Texas A&M for real?
They're the only SEC undefeated team. And after that game against Notre Dame, which they lost the first game of the year, they played much better. They ended up behind in the game last week, which was surprising to many people. Didn't come out strong. LSU missed 2 field goals in the first half, and then the third one, second half, the snapper hits the holder in the face mask. He wasn't ready for it. Cost them 9 points or more. They just did not do well in the red zone. So I thought LSU was going to take over that game. Actually, I had LSU. They should have been up 10, 14, 17 points at half. But give Mike Elko credit, made a substitution change and brought in Marcel Reed, the backup quarterback for Connor Wegman, who I've liked, but has not looked good. I think he's only looked good in 1 of their 4 games, the game against Missouri. The other 3 games has not fared well, hasn't looked like who I thought he was going to be. And they're going to play a South Carolina team who surprisingly has covered every SEC game on the road, but has lost against the spread both at home. The LSU game, I thought some poor officiating, 1 or 2 calls didn't go their way, or 1 or 2 plays on top of that didn't go their way, or else they would have won that game. Then they lost the game against Ole Miss. But they have a dual threat quarterback, and A&M I just don't think is any great shake. They don't have a real good passing game, and I just don't think LSU was ready for Reed to come into the game. He had 60-something yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. So we'll go with the home dog there. I don't know if they have the better defense, but maybe home dog, better quarterback. Finally, they break through at home. I have them winning that game, something like 28-26.
So we got 2 home dogs for you guys this week. Interesting. And before we let you go, you watch more football probably than anybody on the planet. We're 2/3 of the way through the season here. How do you think Miami stacks up against these other top teams around the country?
Probably 6th to 8th best team. I think they would have trouble against a Georgia, a Texas, few of these other teams up top. Who else is up? Oregon. They would have trouble in games like that. But, with that offense, I think they're going to score if they keep evolving on offense and come with some new wrinkles and keep getting better and improving. They could end up, scoring 28 to 40 points on any defense. So I think they're going to be in any game. It's just, how can the defense match up against some of these, top flight teams? So it's going to be fun. Anything can happen. TCU made a championship game a couple of years ago, and that was not a great team. So you just want to get to the playoffs. Obviously, you'd like to get a bye if they can somehow win the ACC championship game. That would be huge. That's one game you don't have to play, and then you get a more favorable matchup. And if you win that, then you got a home game. So probably at Hard Rock. So that would be interesting. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. There's a lot of football left to be played, and thank God we're not the Dolphins. So with the antithesis of the Dolphins, pretty much everything's been going right for us. Everything's going wrong for the Dolphins. So hopefully you'll keep playing well. Guys don't get injured, and kids are fired up about winning. That's what it's all about.
Wrinkles. I like the sound of that word. How about some wrinkles? Running back, running back, tight ends. Yeah, there's a lot of tape now on this team, and you got to shake it up a little bit. Maybe start getting those running backs and tight ends a little more involved in the passing game, for example.
Right. And then on the other side, same thing too. Our defense, Gary, is good. I mean, we got a lot of tape on a lot of these teams. So, if we do some good coaching and game planning, we should be able. It comes down to coaching. Late in years, these kids are all beaten up a little bit. Everyone knows what everyone has. So we're gonna have some close games down the road. Trust me, some teams are gonna get sky high from you.
Got to get those defensive backs playing a little bit more consistently and a little better, and then we'll be talking. All right, Lee, talk to us about ParamountSports.com. What do you got going on this week?
Well, finished with October, so Locktober's over, and we move into November. We don't call it November; we call it Dovember, and hopefully it'll be as successful as the first 2 months of the season. If anyone wants to hop on board, normally we charge $5.97, just $3.97. You'll get 5 weeks of action through November 30th. So you want to hop on board and get our phone service where we rate the games from 10 to 50 units. Love to have you. And could be a 45, 50 unit selection possibly going this week, depending on the status of a team whose quarterback, like Holstein, we don't know yet. If he doesn't play, I think I might have a big advantage in a game. And we're not talking about like a 25, 30-point favorite. We're talking about touchdown to 2 touchdown favorite where a team might be able to blow out their opponent. So something I'm going to be watching. So if anyone wants to hop on board, we've had an incredible run on our 40 to 50 unit max wagers. We're a documented 70 and 25 on those. And also even our 35 units since the start of last year, we're 17 and 7 on. So anything from 35 to 50 units has been money. The last 2 years, and the 40 to 50 units going back 16 years since we changed the unit.
How do you decide the number of units? Is it just an arbitrary idea in your head how good you feel about something?
Well, it's how much I'm going to wager on the game. For instance, if I was to wager between 1,000 and 2,000 a game, if I went 1,000 on my 20 and 25 unit games, and let's say 1,250 on my 30 unit games, I'm going to go between 1,500 and 2,000 on these 35 to 50 unit games. And even if you're $100 to $200 player, 100, 150 on the smaller units and 150 to 200 units on the bigger units. Not that they're always going to win, but in the long run, generally my higher unit plays hit. One time never forget this, it's probably 11, 12 years ago. We go 9-3 opening weekend. And I had my 3 30-unit plays. Those were my biggest plays that weekend, all lost. Won every 20, 25 unit play. So it was a good week, 9-3. Had a client call me, tell me that lost every game. I'm like, how'd you lose every game? He goes, well, I just bet the 3 big ones. You got to bet them all. I mean, because the wins are going to pile up over the course of the season. We're going to hit 55, 57, 58% on the other ones. So I had to explain to him, you got to play every game. You can't just play the big ones. You can't pick and choose just because you like it or you went to that school to play it more or less. So it's a unit system that's worked for my clients, and that's why we've had some clients that have been with me 20, 25 years.
Well, just like the coordinators of America have more tape, so does Lee Sterling. So expecting a big November out of you, Lee. We'll see how it plays out. We thank you guys for joining us today for You Bet CaneSport with Lee Sterling. For Lee, I'm Gary. We'll see you next time, everybody.